What's going on, guys? It's Greg here today, and I'm bringing you a Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 weapon guide, and today I'm going to be going over is the TAQ-V assault rifle. For these weapon guides, since there is already somebody out there who goes over all the stats and breakdowns the weapon for you guys, which is the exclusive Ace, if you're not familiar with his channel, I'll put it in the description below, but I'm pretty sure all of you that were watching this video are well aware of who he is. So, instead of going through all the detailed statistics and everything, I'm going to go based off of my weapon tuning as well as what kind of attachments I recommend. And then I'm going to talk about the playstyle for the class that I've made, and I'm going to go over what the best secondary, equipment, and perks are, so that way you guys are better informed and you can make better decisions based off of the class. One of the things I've never been a fan of whenever it comes to making create a class videos in the past is I feel that a class should be made for somebody's individual playstyle, and personally I believe that by going over a class setup, you might use one of my class setups, but it might not work for you depending on how you're trying to use it. So as a result, I'm going to go over the individual playstyle for each gun, and if you don't want to use it to play that way, then you're going to have to fine-tune the weapon for your liking and your own individual playstyle. Anyways, let's get right into it. So starting off with our class setup, we have the Bore 490 muzzle, the Phase 3 grip, the 50-round drum magazine, FSS combat grip, and the TAQ-V brute stock. Had to make sure I pronounced that one right. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead over each individual tune, and as you guys can see, there's no tune on the 50-round drum magazine because simply it does not exist for an option on that. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and start diving into the individual weapon tuning, and then afterwards I'll explain why it is tuned in that specific way. So for the Bore 490 muzzle, this is a great muzzle for whenever it comes to a nice balanced distribution of horizontal and vertical recoil control. Now, we're going to lose a little bit of aim down sight speed and aiming stability, but I don't think it's really that much that's worth fretting over. So I would highly recommend tuning this one to maximum recoil stabilization as well as maximum gun kick control. And the reason for this is because this gun has a lot of recoil if you haven't noticed already. And one of the strengths of this gun is it has very powerful damage at far ranges. So we're going to want to maximize on our ranged capability, and by that, we want to make our recoil much easier to manage. Next up, we have the Phase 3 foregrip, and the reason you're going to want to use the Phase 3 foregrip is for a few reasons. It's going to help you with that aiming idle stability, which, as we talked about in a previous video, aiming idle stability is very important in this game. One of the reasons it's very important is because it affects your recoil pattern and how consistent your recoil pattern is. On top of that, it's going to give us a little bit better hipfire accuracy, although that's not really important on this gun, but it's going to give us the best recoil stabilization in its class for underbarrels, and that is the main reason we are using this. If you don't know what recoil stabilization is, it is horizontal recoil control, and it's going to tighten up our recoil pattern. Now, as a result, we're going to lose some walking speed as well as aim down sight speed, but again, this gun is more for range, so we don't really have to worry about our mobility too much. Next up, we have the FSS combat grip, and if you're not sure what recoil control means, don't worry, I got you covered. Recoil control is basically every single type of recoil element in this game, so that means recoil steadiness, recoil stabilization, vertical recoil control, horizontal recoil control. It's everything just pretty much combined into one. So having this on is going to help our general recoil out, and we're only going to lose a little bit of aiming stability. Now, we don't want to lose too much aiming stability because then this gun is going to be heavily nerfed downrange, which is the whole point of this gun. So as a result, for the tuning on this one, I made sure to add a little bit of aiming idle stability, and I maxed it out on the recoil steadiness. Again, I'm not too worried about the aim down sight speed because it's more of a range build, and it actually isn't too bad at the final result, so let's go ahead and take a look at the next attachment. Our last attachment is going to be the TAQ-V brute stock, and this one helps out with our aiming stability and recoil control by a good bit. Now, it might look daunting because of the aim down sight, crouch movement speed, aim walking speed, and sprint speed nerf, but it's not really that much. As you can see, we just want to go for our aim walking steadiness and aiming idle stability, so that way we are a very accurate downrange. So now that we have gone over the attachments, I want to talk about some field upgrades that are going to help complement this class setup. So first things first, we have the munitions box because you can never go wrong with this field upgrade. we're going to want to have a lot of equipment, and this is going to make sure that we are going to be able to resupply our equipment when we need it most. On top of that, it's going to give us the ammo just in case the scavenger bags bug out, because right now, sometimes they just don't simply drop. Also, we're going to have the portable radar on here because this is a more defensive gun. We're not going to be just mindlessly running around all over the map. So I would highly recommend having the portable radar on, so that way you could throw it down and have a little personal UAV that's going to also show up for your team, but you can place it wherever you want, and it will show them in that small area. I want to talk about our equipment and our secondary weapons. So as you can see on screen here, I'm using the Basilisk secondary, and you'll see this a lot in my gameplays throughout the year, because right now this is a very reliable sidearm, especially whenever you put the snake shot ammo on it. I will have a video talking about this weapon soon, so stay tuned for that, and subscribe to the channel if you are not already so you know when that goes live. Stun grenade is a great tactical to have on here, because if we're getting pushed by a lot of enemies at once, we're going to want to switch to our reliable secondary, and it does take some time to pull out. So having that stun grenade will give us enough time to be able to pull that out, or just use it to maybe line up some targets for some easier shooting. Claymore is also a great option because, again, this is a more defensive gun, and we're going to want to funnel our enemies towards us while we're trying to use this weapon. So having the Claymore can block a flank, and that way people have to take you on from the front. Again, funneling is very important. If you don't know what I mean by funneling, this is pretty much playing angles on the map where the enemies can only peek you from one direction at a time. So again, Claymores will go ahead and watch the flanks, and you can focus on that area where the main traffic is going to be. And finally, I want to talk about some perks that are going to complement this weapon pretty well. So Bomb Squad is a great option to have because people are definitely going to be throwing nades at you whenever you're playing a little bit more defensively. On top of that, the Scavenger perk is a great option because we're going to want to make sure that we have ammo to constantly be taking on enemies. Now, since we do have the munitions box on, it does go to say that you can take off Scavenger and you can run something else, like maybe Battle Hardened, but I just personally like having Scavenger on because having ammo is very important in this game. On top of that, we have the Hardline perk on for our second perk, and this is up to you if you want to run either Fast Hands or Hardline. Personally for me, I love Hardline. Just getting kill streaks one kill faster means a lot, especially whenever you're playing a really intense match where kill streaks might make or break the difference in winning or losing. And finally, for our ultimate perk, we have the Quick Fix perk on, and this is just because people are likely going to know where you're at, therefore they're likely going to be trying to line up shots on you. The reason they're going to know where you're at, again, this is not a gun that you're going to be playing super aggressive with, so people are going to try to pre-aim the angle that you might be trying to watch, and therefore if we get a kill, it's going to instantly start health regeneration, and on top of that, that means you'll be able to take on much more enemies that might be trying to push shortly after you pick off those enemies. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about the playstyle for this gun and what I recommend. So like I've been mentioning, the TAQ-V is not a gun that is great for aggression. No matter how much you try to kit this gun for aggression, it's just going to hurt the strengths of the weapon, and therefore I'm going to highly recommend this as a weapon where you play power positions on the map and you rotate between power positions trying to lock enemies back towards their spawn. I think that is the best way that this gun is used, and it's simply because, like I said, this gun is very slow at handling, and there's no real way to truly buff that handling stat without hurting its range capabilities and its overall recoil control. So, as you guys can see in the gameplay in the background, I'm basically locking down an area of the map, just rotating between spawn points, and since the game really liked to put them at the schoolyard this match, I really just kind of lurked up here and had them keep coming back trying to hunt me out of this position, and it worked in my favor because I was able to control this gun down longer range, and you guys will see that it paid off. I ended up getting an MGB nuke, and yeah, so overall, as for some thoughts on the TAQ-V, is it a good gun, is it a bad gun, and what do I think of it? I think the TAQ-V is one of the best guns in the entire game, especially because Modern Warfare 2 is a much slower paced Call of Duty compared to other titles. This gun perfectly fits trying to lock your enemies into a certain area of the map and cutting off map traffic and map flow, so I just overall think this gun excels at what the game is trying to cater towards. And on top of that, it is an amazing choice for ground war, because once you learn to master this gun's recoil, you'll start to realize that it's actually not that hard of a gun to control as long as if you're properly adjusting for recoil by pulling down enough on your thumbstick and making sure that you're aware that there is a little horizontal variance on this gun. But if you're able to master that, you can definitely use this thing a little bit more aggressive, and you can also use it to your advantage in ground war to even chow out snipers and marksman rifle users. So overall, I think the TAQ-V is one of the best guns in the entire game, and I think right now that if you have not used this thing already, level it up and try to master its recoil. If you struggle with its recoil, don't worry, there's still some other really good options, but it is a powerhouse. Again, that is not to say though that this gun is not that easy to use, especially for the average player, and therefore it's one of those guns that has high risk, high reward. Anyways, if you liked the video, be sure to drop a rating, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a great day, and peace out.